All right, Congressman, let's get to the torture report. I want to ask you about some comments that you made. You said that what happened wasn't torture, despite the Senate intelligence report, which found that it was. You said, quote, "We're not talking about anyone being burned or stabbed or cut or anything like that. We're talking about people being made to stand in awkward positions." And yet, Congressman, some of the enhanced techniques that the report found included extended waterboarding, sleep deprivation, rectal rehydration, slapping, stress positions. How is that not torture, Congressman?
Well, the Justice Department clearly said it was not torture. People like General Hayden, who I have the greatest respect for, they made sure that whatever was done to not violate the torture statute, it could have been rough treatment, but there's a difference between that and torture. And
obviously, but Congressman, when you hear about this rectal feeding, when you hear that one of the detainees froze to death, in your gut, doesn't that strike you as torture?
Well, first of all, on the person who died from hypothermia, that was fully investigated by several prosecutors, all who said that there was no criminal intent. In fact, that was early on in Afghanistan. It was after that happened that the CIA on its own set in motion the actual program, which did involve waterboarding. But that was done in the early days. It was done, and it was obviously an accident. Again, it's been investigated by a number of special prosecutors and lawyers, all of whom said there was not criminal intent. It was an accident. It occurred in a brief period of time, and it was after that that all of the measures went into effect to protect the detainees in the future. As far as the waterboarding, I don't consider that torture in the way it was carried out. And I'll say this very clearly, that if you're faced with 2,000 or 3,000 Americans dying and someone's head being held underwater, I would say hold his head underwater. If we had captured Mohammed Atta on September 10th, if it involved waterboarding him to save those 3,000 people who were burned to death and had to jump out of windows, I'd say go ahead and do it.
And yet, Congressman, the report also found that no actionable intelligence came from those tactics. Do you dispute that claim? Do you have any proof that suggests that those interrogation tactics led to actionable intelligence and may have led to finding and killing bin Laden, for example?
Well, for instance, Leon Panetta, who was President Obama's appointee as CIA director, said that information gained from the interrogations definitely led to finding bin Laden. Now, there's never one piece of intelligence that does it all, but that certainly fit into the mosaic, and it was able to define it down to Gatawi, who was the Kuwaiti, who was the one that was the courier. So,
and
yes.
Congressman, I don't want to cut you off. We are running out of time. I just want to finally get your reaction to something that your colleague John McCain said on the Senate floor. Take a listen, and I'll get your reaction on the other side.
I have long believed some of these practices amounted to torture, as a reasonable person would define it, especially, but not only, the practice of waterboarding, which is a mock execution and an exquisite form of torture. I know from personal experience that the abuse of prisoners will produce more bad than good intelligence. I know that victims of torture will offer intentionally misleading information if they think their captors will believe it.
Congressman, what is your response to Senator John McCain, your fellow Republican colleague, who went through similar tactics and calls it torture?
Well, it's not similar. What John McCain went through was far worse than anything that the detainees went through. I have great respect for John McCain.
But he says it's torture.
And I honestly disagree with John McCain on that. I have great respect for his opinion, but I disagree with him. I also disagree when he says that they give bad information. Of course they do. Every person who's interrogated gives bad information, and you have to sort it out. But it was the fact that, for instance, Khalid Sheikh Mohammed did lie on a particular question about the courier. Because he lied, how we knew he was covering up for the person and why that person was the courier. All of this is part of a mosaic. The good intelligence, the bad intelligence, it has to be sorted out. There is no magic bullet on this.